So, welcome everyone. It's great to have you all here. So we have here Sarah, the coordinator of iRISE, Inge, the coordinator of OSIRIS, and Tony, coordinator of TIER2. And we would like to, get into knowing what has been happening. So, from your perspective, Sarah, what makes this three-way tripartite cooperation of these three Horizon projects the most valuable?
I think just the different perspectives that everyone brings, the diversity of the people involved and their expertise and experiences and their willingness to contribute.
Inge, what
Well,
would you say?
I think that what makes it work and why it's important is that we bring together different perspectives on meta science and different perspectives on reproducibility and research in reproducibility with the three projects. So while we all are in the same call and we all have the same outcomes, we're slightly different in perspective of research domains. And the other thing that is really strengthening is that we keep each other focused. So since we do slightly different things, but all in the same field of reproducibility in research, we can show each other's plans, each other's protocol, and also what we did, and therefore that strengthens the output we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony.
I completely agree with this. I think we have strength through our methodological diversity in terms of giving feedback on each other's outputs, directly collaborating. But I think a strength is also just a collaborative spirit throughout the three consortia, and the fact that it's such an amazing bunch of people to work with. So much fun and so rewarding.
Mm. Thank you. And maybe we can stay with you, Tony. Since our last sit down in 2024 in General Assembly in Greece, what would you say from your perspective are the main achievements of your project, and also how is it linked with the other two projects?
Yeah, so over the last year, we've really moved into the operational phase of Tier2. So at the core of the project are these 8 pilots, so new interventions, practices and tools for reproducibility for researchers, funders and publishers. So we've really been digging deep into that work. So we don't have results as yet, but within the next few months, all of these results will be ready and available to the community. And throughout that, as we said, we've been collaborating in terms of the development and getting feedback with the other projects.
Thank you, Tony. Inge?
Yeah, thanks. So I think that as Tony is saying, I think we really moved on to the next phase. So in last year, we were still in the protocol phase and we were still thinking about how exactly we were going to execute our plans. And I think we're now really in the data collection phase. So we are executing randomized controlled trials, observational studies. We've also finalized some things like a Delphi study on a checklist for reproducibility, but also a scoping review together with Tier2, and that then feeds again into the work of iRISE. So I think it's a very exciting time in which we are now finally seeing the first results of what we actually do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess in a similar vein, we were in a very early stage of the project when we spoke last time, just getting things set up, writing protocols, and now we're well into getting results, seeing how things are really coming together. We've got our first outputs, we've done several reviews, looking at the theory of reproducibility and causes, metrics. We've got iRISE Souls out, a tool which is a database of evidence for interventions to improve reproducibility, which, as Inge mentioned, builds on the work of Tier2 and OSIRIS and the scoping review that they've completed, which is really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it? Yeah.
No, this is great. It actually nicely lines up also to my follow-up question. What would you highlight in what ways these projects complemented each other the most? What would you say are the most important methodologies which were used across the projects, or tools, or the ideas which were moving across them?
I guess the most obvious one for me is the synergy between the scoping review and all the work that was done on that fed into us being able to train our automated tools to do some of this work and create this resource for the community in terms of bringing all that evidence together.
I think that I agree that is one of the great examples that we did over the last year. I think that another example is actually where we are developing the OSIRIS audit. So that is a way of auditing your own projects for their reproducibility. So if you are doing your research in a reproducible manner. And now I need to say it correctly, so I need Tony's help a bit. But TIER2, for example, is doing something with the same mindset, but slightly different, where they're looking at
autoethnography.
Thank you. And as you see, that's totally different from my field, autoethnography. But it works that we do have the same output, like how can you measure what you're doing in your project with a totally different methodology and a totally different approach. And I think that gives us great output, and actually putting that output together will then build the whole field of auditing reproducibility projects.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I agree. So within this task to reflect on our own reproducibility practices, we took a much more qualitative research approach. So autoethnography is a social sciences approach where you kind of reflect and study on your own self-practices. And this shows again the methodological diversity across the projects. I think as well, so within Tier2 we're now 6 months from the finish, and as we look to the future, I think for the European Commission in funding our 3 projects, the idea was really to spur innovation and test new tools, services, practices and so. And if you look at the range of interventions that have been tested across our 3 consortia from different perspectives, our outputs really provide a firm basis to roll out further interventions and scale up reform towards increasing reproducibility on a much broader scale.
Thank you, Tony. That leads me also to a follow-up question, which is very much strongly linked with this. So, what would you highlight as main outcomes which can be applied in the real-world practice? Let's say we have learned a lot across the 3 projects. We have learned a lot from each other. But if we should try to pinpoint something, what would that be?
Well, I would say don't get us started, because there's quite a lot of things that we can use in real world. First of all, if you look at meta science, then I know that we're coming back to the scoping review and SOLs quite often, but I think that what is shown there is that there is really an enormous lack of evidence for most reproducibility interventions, and I think that is already something that the meta science field in particular can work with. I think that if you look at output that can be used by researchers, so researchers in the social sciences, researchers in the biomedical field, you can look at, for example, our reproducibility checklist that we now developed in the Delphi study. As well as that we're now conducting several randomized controlled trials to see if we can make reporting more reproducible. So I think that there is much that can be used or can be used in the near future in all different domains of what we're doing. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sarah, what do you think?
Well, picking up on what researchers can use in particular, I guess, we've got a scoping review out on the different metrics used to measure reproducibility across all different fields, and we found 50 different metrics used in different situations, which is going to provide a really great resource for people in meta-science, researchers doing replication studies on the metrics that they can use in different circumstances and different study designs to measure reproducibility.
Thank you.
So in terms of concrete outputs, definitely the work to scope the evidence base provides a firm basis for future research, but also in very practical terms, we have a wealth of tools We have a reproducibility monitoring dashboard, which will be integrated within the open air infrastructure. We have checklists for computational social sciences. We have researcher workflow tools in life sciences, and reproducibility promotion plan tools for funders. So lots of concrete outputs.
Thank you, Tony. Now, we have encountered some challenges throughout the time of the lifetime of our projects. What would those be? And I think even more important is, what would you suggest to other people who will go in a similar way, how to avoid them? So what would be the lessons learned for us?
So kind of a rewarding challenge was facilitating collaboration. For example, with publishers for our randomized controlled trials, finding publishers who were willing to take part was really quite easy, but then for them to obtain the right permissions in order to be able to take part, this was more challenging. And so there are certain pressure points in terms of how we can collaborate together more effectively that I would highlight. And there, especially our collaboration across the 3 consortia has really been a strength. Inge?
Yeah. I fully agree. So what I would done, I think I fully agree with what Tony said. So what I would done, what is a learning point for next project, is that I would start maybe earlier with speaking with the stakeholders, and maybe also being more concrete in an earlier phase, because I think the willingness is there, but you really need to find each other on how are you exactly going to execute those studies. And the other thing is that, but that's quite in line with that, I would think I would also ask more researchers outside of the field of meta science to think along in the tools we are developing. I think we did that, but I think we could do that better, and that we can learn from, for example, clinical research on how we can build on that. Yeah.
Yeah, again, agree about the engaging with different stakeholders, and there being a willingness there to have these collaborations, but the structures in place across the different stakeholder groups, making it kind of difficult to get things moving in an effective way. So things taking quite a bit longer than you expect, just because there's a kind of misalignment, I guess, of the understanding of how the systems work, and getting to understand how those different underlying structures affect how you can collaborate.
Thank you. Now what I would be quite interested about is, what are you most excited about? What is coming in next 12 months or next 6 months? Each of the project is in a different stage. So what are you now most excited about? What is coming?
I guess starting to get some of the results from our these trials that we've got that are really underway now, starting to see some of the results from these really big pieces of work that we've had going since the start, I think is going to be the most exciting thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Sarah. So it is the time to really see the results of what we were doing, and I think that is very exciting. But on top of that, I also find it an exciting phase, because we are also nearing the end of some of our projects, or OSIRIS takes place a little bit longer than the other projects. But I also really love to see what comes out of this for the next phase. So for new projects and new ideas, and you really saw that in what we did today. People are very much engaging between the different projects in what they think that should be the next step in research into reproducibility, and I'm very excited about what comes out of that new phase.
Yeah, completely agree. We're very excited to be able to share the results of all these different parts of our project, of all the projects. Especially new tools and services and practices. But also we were working today on creating recommendations and a roadmap for the future, and of course collaborating on some of those activities amongst ourselves in hopefully new projects and new initiatives. I guess this is the most exciting thing.
Thank you, Tony. And now to close up, what would be the main takeaway message you would like to share or share with the academic community, with the policymakers, and with the audience? What would that be?
So issues of reproducibility are really multifaceted problems that need joined up approaches in terms of solution. And so we really need to collaborate together across institutions, publishers, funders, and others to work together in ways which mean that researchers can implement practices which foster reproducibility as part of their normal work.
So you asked for like different, in your question you said different stakeholders. So for I fully agree with what Tony was saying, and on top of that I would like to advise policymakers, and I think that is in line with what Tony said, is to make it easier to work in a reproducible manner, because I think that many researchers really want to do that, but that we need to get rid of the obstacles to do so, and that also entails for example funding and other stuff. And the other thing that I would like to recommend each and every researcher in each and every field is to collaborate, because we've really seen that the collaboration between those, not only within the project but also between those three projects, is very fruitful, and it is not only inspiring but it also really leads to better outcomes and a better understanding of reproducibility. So I would like to advise all researchers, and it doesn't only entail the meta science field, to start those collaborations, even if it feels a bit challenging in the beginning, on how do you bring those people together and how do you speak the same language, but it really is fruitful and it pays off.
I don't think I've got much more to add to that. Just having everybody, all these people in the same room, it really makes a difference in getting down and talking about these issues and how we can solve them.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I might add just one thing, which is a pragmatic thing, but also can be interesting for our listeners and viewers in the future. The very useful step is to bring different consortia together. This is invaluable thing, and it showed us so many perspectives, even though we are in similar fields but still different fields. So this is definitely great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Inge. Thank you, Tony. And for everyone else, follow us on our website and social media. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.